Welcome back to part 2 of my LGBT tag. If you haven't seen part 1, I'll put a link to part 1 in the description so you can go back and watch that. This one, there's a trigger warning on because literally the first question talks about self-injury and suicide. So if that bothers you, skip ahead or just don't watch this video. Yeah, okay. And honestly, I need a breath before I do this part. Okay. So the next question is, thoughts regarding inner turmoil about your sexuality. Did you have any? Did it escalate to self-injury or suicidal thoughts? Yes, yes, and yes. I grew up in a very Christian home, and coincidentally, right around the time that I started coming out to various people, the Lgbt community was a big topic at the dinner table with my family. And I love my family and I don't want to speak ill, but a lot of the things I heard at the dinner table, they were just daggers in my heart. And I could never say anything, and that was the worst part. I might do a video about self-injury and like my journey with mental health at some point, but for now I'll say I started cutting in middle school. First nothing more than scratches, then as time went on my cuts got worse. And I cut for various reasons, not just because of my sexual orientation, but sorry, this is not an easy thing to talk about in front of who knows how many people are going to see this video. I currently only have like 31 subscribers, but who knows how many I'll have in like a year and how many of them will go back and look at this, and I get way more views than subscribers. Like, anyway. When I did cut because of my sexual orientation, at first it was when I was in the stage where I wouldn't even admit it to myself. Where if I did say anything, it was, I struggle with same-sex attraction. During the time period when I saw it as a sin, as something that was a part of me, but I couldn't act on it. So, honestly, sometimes I would cut myself to push my feelings down. And then sometimes it was me screaming. Just screaming for, I don't even know. Like, every time I would cut myself, it was like, what I feel is real. It was like, my feelings were so far hidden and I was so far in the closet that the cuts made it real to me, almost. It's really hard to explain. I'm sorry, trying to make it through this part, because it is a very good question, and it is something that needs to be answered. I mean, not everybody has to talk about it if they're not comfortable, but I feel like if I can let even one other person who is struggling with their sexual orientation or gender identity and is engaging in self-harm or thinking of suicide, if I can even help just one person in that situation know that they're not the only person who feels that way, and that it's okay to feel that way, but that there are other ways to cope, then it makes how I feel right now just talking about it worth it. This video is probably going to be just about this question, quite honestly. Probably about this question and the next one. My cutting got worse, actually, after I started coming out. Wait, actually, let me backtrack, because it asks, did it escalate to self-injury or suicidal thoughts? I had suicidal thoughts in the past, but not because of my sexual orientation, until my sophomore year. At the end of my sophomore year, April of, like, second semester of my sophomore year, I was dating a male, a cisgendered, straight identifying. We're all pretty sure that he's bi. If for whatever reason he has discovered this video, because he knows who he is, you've discovered this video, yes, I do think you're bi. And I'm pretty sure you'll figure it out at some point. Even one of my significant others in our senior year of high school thought you were my gay friend. Anyway, sorry about that. I was dating a male who identified as straight. And I didn't actually attempt suicide. But I was dating him behind my parents' back, and when it was made known that I had contemplated suicide, everybody thought it was because I knew that my parents knew about it, and I knew I was going to get in trouble, and that made me depressed, and that wasn't it. I was in a situation where I knew that I didn't love him and I didn't want to be with him, but I was also in such a bad state mentally that I was almost codependent on him. So I didn't love him, I didn't enjoy being with him, but at the same time I'd grown to a point where I needed him. And I wrote a suicide note that nobody ever saw. He saw a version of a suicide note, but he didn't see my actual suicide note. And it didn't even talk about why I really wanted to kill myself. I didn't mention my sexual orientation. Even in death, I was going to take it to the grave. I ended up not going through with it. And then in a fight with my parents, I told them that I'd been feeling suicidal, and they put me in a hospital where, when all the girls at the hospital asked me what my sexual orientation was, I told them all that I was straight. And I didn't start coming out until probably second semester of my junior year. I think it was second semester. Maybe it was, no, it was November or December, so towards the end of first semester. So I didn't start coming out until a little bit later, after I had a male that I was dating ended up in jail for beating his mother. We weren't actually dating, but people thought we were dating and he thought we were dating, but really we were just making out, and I didn't really see it as a relationship, but he did. And by the time he came back from jail, I had come out as bisexual, but I told him that I was lesbian just to shush. And I later came out as lesbian and then came out as pan. So my journey with labels is, like, I hate labels for that reason, because I feel like I've never really changed, but I've discovered new things about myself and my attraction, so I just don't like labels. I'm sorry, I got off topic and I'm not sure where I was. So even at the hospital, I told everybody that I was straight. Eventually he and I broke up. He broke up with me the day before my Sweet 16. I feel like my story is pretty common. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm saying, like, I share experiences and emotions with a lot of people within the LGBT community of being raised in a religious home, feeling like you have to hide who you are. And honestly, like, as I was saying, things got worse when I started coming out, because at school I was so comfortable, but at the same time I knew that there were people who went to my school whose mothers were in Bible studies with my mother, and it could get back to my mother that I was one of the gays or one of the lesbians, and things got worse because I was living a double life. At school, I was me. I would wear parent-appropriate clothing out the door when I got to school, especially my senior year. I'll want the binder and the traditionally men's shirts. Especially my senior year, I had gotten a really short haircut, and my mother pulled me aside. I've stated that I have an adopted mother and a biological mother. I'm referring to my adopted mother. She pulled me aside and told me that since my hair was short, I needed to start wearing more makeup so that I would still look feminine. And I remember one time in the car, she actually looked at me and was like, "You're not wearing makeup." And I was like, "I don't need to wear makeup. I don't have to wear it if I don't want to. In fact, like, you used to tell me not to let my makeup define me and that I didn't have to wear it all the time, so why do I have to wear it now just because my hair is short?" But yeah, it got worse because at school I would say one thing and at home I would keep my mouth shut, and that was really hard for me to do. And like, I remember one time, I think it was my senior year, there had been a big deal made because we'd had a spirit day where people were supposed to dress as the opposite of what they normally were, and it was supposed to be like jocks dress up as nerds, blah 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 blah, but a lot of people took it as boys dress up like girls, girls dress up like boys, and there were some parents who had issues with it, and I think I was the one who mentioned it, and my parents started talking about how wrong it was to cross-dress, blah 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 blah, and I, for the first time, like, contradicted them, and I was like, why is it that skirts are inherently feminine? I was like, they are a article of clothing. Society has made them feminine. And they were like, do you support demasculinating our men? And then they straight up asked me, do you think that homosexuality is wrong? And I bit my lip and said yes. So I feel like later on in high school, a lot of my self-harm and suicidal thoughts that never manifested even to the point of writing a note, but they were there, a lot of it was just self-loathing, because everything that I stood for, I couldn't stand up for it in my home, and that was really hard for me. Feeling like a hypocrite, and like the day that I said yes when they asked me if I thought homosexuality was wrong, after I said yes, like, I was just screaming in my head, no I don't, but I couldn't say it, and that was really hard. This video is going a lot longer than I meant it to. When you live in that kind of environment, it's okay to feel that way. And it's okay, to some degree, to say one thing to your friends and say another thing to your parents. And if anybody judges you for not coming out to your parents, they can take their opinion and shove it up their ass. Because in a home like that, it's like, my parents and I already didn't see eye to eye. And I knew that they were already suspecting, and there was a lot of tension, and I was just in a place where I didn't want to make it worse. I didn't want to be any more of a black sheep than I already felt like I was, so I kept my mouth shut. And that's really damaging. But at the same time, it's necessary for some people, and it was necessary for me. Sometimes I feel like if I shouldn't have been as open as I was at school, because that ended up being what made my parents figure it out. But at the same time, I don't regret it because I had an environment where I could be me. And everybody needs that. But, to anybody out there who feels like I did, feels like you're living a double life, like you have such firm convictions and you can't stand up for them, it's okay. And just because you can't stand up for them now, that doesn't mean that you're always going to be feeling like a hypocrite. There will come a point in your life where, I know it's cliche, and I rolled my eyes when my choir director told me in high school it gets better, but it does get better. Doesn't mean that they'll be a part of your life, but it gets better. You end up building your own life without them, if need be. And I'm getting off topic. I'm struggling to find words right now, because the depth of emotion that somebody would feel that I felt, to be at the point of such conflict and feelings of hypocrisy where you feel like there's no other choice but to manifest it through a blade. It hurts, and it's okay to hurt. But I will say that there are options besides literally hurting yourself. There is somebody out there that you can talk to, and if you don't have anybody to talk to, hit me up on Google+. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with being the one that you talk to until you find somebody else, like, more in your area who knows you a little more personally that you can talk to. If you don't have anybody, let me know. And I might not be able to be there every second, but I will, like, reply to your messages. Like, I feel like we in the community are abused and cut down enough. We don't need to do it to ourselves. I mean, there are a lot of people within the community who are victims of physical violence, who are hurt. We don't need to be hurting ourselves. So, like, find a safe space. Find your gay straight alliance, and if you're not comfortable with everybody in your whole school knowing, let them know, hey, I'm here because this is a safe space, but I'm not comfortable with it leaving this room. I just need this place where I can come and be myself and be honest about how I feel about the way I'm living my life and hiding who I am. I need a place where I don't have to hide. Even your journal. Write songs. Paint. Draw. Take up a self-defense class if you're... Join a sport. Like, do something productive instead of hurting yourself. And I didn't mean to turn this into a, like, reaching out to people who are hurting themselves video, but that's what this needs to be. And I'm going to continue the rest of the questions on another video, because that's what this video needs to be. It needs to be it's okay to hurt. It's okay to feel ashamed if you feel like you're living a double life. It's okay to feel like a hypocrite. It's okay to feel like you're screaming so loudly in your head but you can't say it. It's okay. And it's not always going to be that way. And you don't need to leave permanent scars on your body for it. I mean, I'm at a point where I have tattoos that cover some of my scars, but I can still see them. I don't think you ever stop seeing your own scars. And I've made peace with my scars. I've grown to see them as a representation of the pain the pain that I felt was real and valid. But you don't have to do that. And I know that hearing me say that doesn't necessarily make it better, because people told me the same thing and it didn't make it better. I still felt like I had no choice. And I'll be straight up. There's still days where I want to reach for a blade. I don't know if it ever really goes away. Because I've known people much older than me who have gone much longer without cutting, who still want to pick up a knife every now and then. When that becomes your coping method, it's hard to let go of. And I know that what I'm saying right now might not actually make you stop. But if you are reaching for that blade as validation that what you are feeling is real, listen to me right now when I say that it is, and that you don't need a knife to tell you that. You don't need a razor blade to tell you that. You don't need matches or a lighter or whatever it is that you use to hurt yourself. You don't need that to validate how you feel. And some of my most powerful paintings and drawings were when I felt like cutting, but I decided that that wasn't an option for me, so I created art that represented what I would have done to myself. And for some it is triggering, so I don't always show those pieces, but find somebody that you can talk to. Find somebody who can help you through what you're going through, and if nothing else, be that person that you can be real with and not feel like you're putting on an act, wearing a mask, painting on a smile, because that is so fucking hard to do. It is so fucking hard to go through every day feeling like you're not you, and wondering who you are and why you look in the mirror and you don't see you. You see who everybody else wants you to be, and the words that come out of your mouth don't sound like you. That is so fucking hard. And I remember what that feels like. That was only 2.5 years ago for me. It was 2.5 years ago that I was finally able to drop the act. So just 3 years ago, I was you. Christmas of 2013, I had cuts on my abs and on my hips and on my legs. I remember that feeling. I don't think you ever forget that feeling. But it does get replaced by better feelings. You still remember that when you think about that time. You still remember how much that fucking hurt. And I don't cuss this much in my videos usually, but I think it's appropriate right now. It fucking hurts. And it's okay to hurt. And I feel like I'm just repeating myself at this point. But I really want to drive home that your feelings matter, and that there is somebody in this world that you can be real with. I don't care who you are or where you are. There is one person in your life. Find that one person even if it's the guidance counselor at school who legally can't they can legally tell your parents if you're cutting, but they can't legally tell your parents that you're gay or bisexual or transgender. So if you just want to talk to a guidance counselor about your sexual orientation and how you feel about it and how you feel about having to hide it, do it. Talk to someone. And if you don't have anybody to talk to, journal, write music, everything I've already said. Like, find something, find someone, find your escape. Because I'm telling you, those moments of escape, are like water in a desert. Those moments of escape when you can just be yourself, even if it's just to your journal or just to a painting that nobody else will understand the meaning of unless you tell them. Those moments of escape will help a lot. And if it's a journal or if it's painting or drawing, when you look back at those, you'll see the genuine you. And even right now, if you draw what you feel, you paint what you feel, you might not look in the mirror and see yourself, but you'll be able to look at that drawing or that painting or that journal entry and see the real you. I'm going to end this video now because I meant for each of these segments to only be 15 minutes, and I'm now at almost half an hour. So, I will see you all in the next video, where hopefully it won't be this serious and somewhat depressing. But yeah, see you all in the next video.